What's happening, friends? Welcome back for another episode of Waynecast. This is number 56, and it is a historic show. This is my first show in the Sterling Heights Speakeasy, freshly opened by the time this episode drops. So joining me in studio today is one of our creative strategists, Tory Hyde.
Hi. Glad to be here.
Second, third appearance.
Yeah, something like that. Done a couple creative shows, but...
Well, good deal.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is our first one-on-one, so why don't you give the listeners a quick rundown of what a day in the life for you at Wayne Media is like?
A day in the life. That would pretty much be checking emails, making sure the clients are happy, having a good day. If it's the beginning of the month, it's more making content, making ads, making things that'll go rolling out for the next month. And then more at the end of the month, we work on our internal stuff, getting blogs rolling, making sure our website's up to date, all of those things.
It is never it's never the same thing.
No, that's my favorite part about the job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mine too. And it's also sometimes my least favorite part. You never know what's coming. All right. So I wanted to do a podcast on this particular topic for a while, pretty much since COVID broke. And at this time, it's unsure if there's going to be a reoccurrence or not, but we'll see. But basically, I want to talk about employer benefits and how that factors into turnover and what I think companies should be doing to focus on retention more so than what they're currently doing. So as we're recording this, it's the beginning of August, and employers are really getting into this perspective of, how can they best retain their employees? And because there's such it's kind of twofold. One, the employment percentage is, between 5 and 8 points, depending on what report you're looking at. But everyone is hiring. So it's very difficult to find good people, but the unemployment rate is still high, which is very unprecedented. Mm-hmm. So last night, as I was thinking about this, and I thought about just writing a blog, I'm going to write, a couple thousand words on this particular topic, but I thought it'd be much better if we did this podcast. And since we were coming to Sterling Heights, I thought, well, let's just do it. Have you on the show because you offer unique perspective because you graduated college in December.
Yep. And then job hunted for 2 months and then ended up at Wayne Media. It's been about 5 months since as of right now. So.
Yeah. And I haven't looked for a job, in probably 10 years. So, so I don't really know what that environment's like, but I wanted to have you on just to talk about it because you went through, I would say, probably a lot of interviews, stress, anxiety. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it just...
No, very true. An overwhelming feeling of never being good enough, even though I know I was good enough. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this has to do with, I think, how companies hire and where I think companies are making huge mistakes in their hiring process. And it's because they are looking to hire somebody quickly because they don't have time to do a long interview process. But then that person turns over really quickly and they're back in the interview process again.
Spending more time.
Yeah. So had they have done a proper full-length interview process, they wouldn't be back in that situation again.
And focused on retention.
Yeah, exactly. So last night I posted on Facebook, $500 sign-on bonuses only last so long. Building a culture that people want to come to and be a part of, that's priceless. Yeah. And what spurred this, you might remember this, when we were at the Brighton Chamber networking event, there was the franchise Taco Bell lady there.
Yes.
Remember that? And she had said, because someone, I think it was Julianne from the chamber, had asked her, what are they doing to try and get people in? And they said it was really two things: the sign-on bonuses and work today, get paid tomorrow.
Yes.
Now, of course, there's going to be different things that younger people want, right? Getting paid the next day is probably very appealing to younger people because they have no idea or framework of how to manage money when they're 16 years old.
Exactly.
So I can see why that's appealing. But in the larger scope, I don't think fast food restaurants have to put themselves in the hole of we can only use young people or we can only use people that are going to be here for 3 to 6 months.
Of course, yeah.
And Chick-fil-A, I think, has shown that is completely true. You don't need to hire for short term. You can hire for long term. Their turnover rate is way less than McDonald's, Subway, and Taco Bell, largely because of how their hiring process is. Yeah. So I want to talk about the hiring process at Wayne Media and why I think it's effective. And then I want to ask you a couple of questions about what you saw in the market and talk about some benefits. So typically what happens at Wayne Media is when someone applies, we do an initial phone interview.
Yep.
This is basically saying, do you check all of the boxes of what we need? Are you in the location? Do you have these skills? It's very data driven.
Yeah.
Interview 2 is very behavioral. You come into the office, meet the team. We talk about character, integrity, work ethic. It has really nothing to do with the skills of the job.
Are you a good fit?
Yes. Or are you a good person?
Yes.
And that might seem odd to ask, or not that we ask, hey, are you a good person? Because everyone's going to say, well, yeah, I'm pretty good, but you want to make sure that the person has integrity. You want to make sure that they have, they want to be there, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And then interview 3 is the exact same interview in person as interview 1. And the reason why it's the exact same is I ask the same questions because I document both to make sure they're not lying.
Yes.
And I've talked about that on probably 4 or 5 podcasts. So it's not like it's a secret, but it's much harder to remember the truth over a 2 to 3 interview period. So it's just a really good way to check to make sure, you said this. Let's verify this on the 3rd interview.
Yeah. Well, and part of the behavioral one, the second one that I know you look for is always someone that wants to put in the work before the work has begun, someone that does their research, that cares about Wayne Media as is. And so exactly like you said, it's not a secret how we hire. I remember going into my 3rd interview and listening to maybe podcast 4 when this is 56, which is crazy. And that was your first hiring one. I remember sitting down with a journal and writing out full paragraph answers. Like, you want someone that cares and wants to research the company. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's because in my mind, I'm trying to build a culture, a framework that people want to be a part of. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't want people to want to be there for 50, 60 hours a week, but I want them to enjoy coming to work. I don't want them to feel like it's a chore or, and there's going to be days that are going to be hard, right? It's going to be stressful.
Always is.
But at the end of the day, I want people to be happy with their position. I want them to be happy with the benefits, the compensation, like all of those things matter. And because I know they mattered to me when I was employed by somebody, I want to reciprocate that to, the employees that work for me. So as I was thinking about this more and more, and businesses right now are trying to compete, and it was funny, I think it was Buffalo Wild Wings. Beth and I drove by in Novi the other day, and they had a sign that said hiring bonuses starting at $450. And I was like, well, that's a weird approach. Like, all the fast food restaurants are at least $500. And you're like, what's going to get someone in here faster? $50 less.
Of all the bonuses.
Yeah. And of all the restaurants too, because it's not like, B-Dubs is fast food.
Yeah, true.
It just made me laugh. I was like, how unaware can you be of like what the market is doing? If you're going to use that tactic, at least use it well.
Or at least meet the bar.
Yeah, but the biggest thing that I've seen is like, when I go in to consult for people on how to hire better, the first thing is if you're having trouble finding good people, make sure that your integrity as a business is online. Make sure that's a part of the process. Like in all of our job applications, there's a little section about like our company ethos. Yeah. Like that's really important to be in there. And if that's not getting you the right people, then you need to make a video saying, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's how we hire. Because that's going to increase the level of quality people that you get. Because right now people are in this spot where they need a job, they're going to take the first thing that comes to them rather than being choosy.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about the process that you had. So you graduated in December. What happened after that?
So I graduated in December and I had a very broad major. I did that on purpose because even though I wouldn't say I'm a master of skills, that's what your career is for, is to learn how to master things even better. There's not 4 years of college is going to make you a master of anything. So my broad career had a lot of experience in all of those things through internships and stuff like that. So I did what any recent out of college person did. I moved back home with my folks and just started going hardcore on my Indeed resume, my actual resume. And then as someone in the creative world, we're told you have to show off the work you've done, which is very true. Employers want to see what you're capable of. And so I had my own personal website that I was updating as best I could, making it look better. At that time, I didn't know about SEO. And so I think I did decent, but probably could have been better. And so I just started going hard on applying for anything and everything that even remotely looked like it could work. And so it was difficult to never hear good responses back. I would say 75% of what I applied for, I never got a response of.
Yeah.
And then all but 2 to maybe 3, I just got no's from. I only had 2 or 3 interviews before I came to Wayne Media. So
yeah, it's an interesting place from the employer perspective, especially when you're listing, and we talked a little bit about this on the way over, but when you're listing for volume, like when you're listing on Indeed and you turn on one-click apply, everybody and their brother that has an Indeed profile and a resume set up on there can click and apply. So sifting through all of that is overwhelming. And that's where the quality process needs to happen. So like for us, whenever I hire, I put out a listing. I'll run an ad on LinkedIn or Facebook, depending on which platform I want to hit on. And then in the job application, it says only candidates that submit a cover letter and resume are going to be considered.
Yes.
So I might have 15 people apply, but only emails from 3. So I know those are my 3. Those are the 3 I need to interview.
The ones that did their research.
The other 12 couldn't follow directions.
Yes.
And that's a really good way to filter people out. So as I was going through this more and more, I was thinking about, well, what entices people to a business? Well, obviously benefits are important. The sign-on bonus I don't think is as important, because if the culture is there and the salary makes sense, like what fast food restaurants are doing right now is they're saying, here's this $500 up front to make you feel like you're getting something.
Yes. I'm
still going to pay you well less than what you're worth in terms of, your degree or your position. Now, granted, you are the employee, so you saying yes to whatever wage is you agreeing to that contract. So if you're agreeing to a low wage, you therefore can't complain about said low wage that you agreed to. You should have done that up front, or had a path to where like, well, now we're going to, work on getting that higher, or it's just a short-term job until you jump ship somewhere else.
Yeah. Exactly. Emphasis on that, because with the bonus signing right now, most fast food places especially are just saying 30 days to 90 days before you receive your bonus, or before, you can break that contract. And my younger brother, exactly that. He's leaving for college next week, and he went and found a fast food place to work at, and did his math, and he was like, sweet, I have exactly 60 days. And he found places that had a 60-day requirement. And he was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And that's it.
and that's the thing is like, what are you doing to bring in quality people that are going to stay? Because hiring is expensive. And I think the majority of business owners that are getting started forget about this. If I have to go, like if someone in our department leaves, it's very expensive for me to rehire someone, not just because of how much money they make, but because I have to pull a senior person to train them. I have to spend time myself training them, which pulls away from how many sales I can bring in or how many clients I can service.
Yeah.
So not only are you drawing from 2 or 3 different salaries, but you also have a hole in the company where you can't bring in as much work now until that person is spun up.
Exactly.
So, I estimated hiring somebody, every time I need to hire a new person, if we had someone that left, which thankfully we never have, cost about $20,000 to $30,000 over an annual basis.
That's a lot.
It is a ton. And I'm going to sit there and complain. Like, that's why, like, I've never ever once thought for a second of hiring people at minimum wage, because it doesn't make any sense at all.
Because it costs more if they go.
Exactly. So from the beginning, even though like it was very, difficult in the beginning to pay somebody, 15 to 17 an hour when they started, that's what had to happen so people wouldn't turn over. And then now, we want everyone to make more than that. And that's something we've been super open about, because it matters to pay people well.
Yeah.
So as you were going through that process, what were some of the things that you tried to do that might have been a little bit different than the average candidate?
Well, you talked about cover letters earlier. I definitely, both from research, but just from like a human perspective, understood that if I applied at this random shop over here, knew nothing about the company, nothing about the owner, how it started at all, even just to the extent of knowing the name of the person that I was writing to, putting that name on the top of your cover letter says so much more than just being like, to whom it may concern. So that was one thing I really tried my best to do. And in a way, I guess, to anyone that is hiring, but also expects that you want to be reached, make it easier for people to find out who you are. Like, your name is everywhere, all over Wayne Media. There were companies that I would spend upwards of 20 minutes on their website trying to find the name of the person. I wanted to be dedicated. I wanted to go, And I couldn't. And I had to stick with the whom it may concern. And I would never hear anything.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, I tried. I promise.
Yeah, you need to do a better job of putting people on the website.
Like, please.
That's what you should have put in your letter. This is the problem. Let me tell you what you guys are doing wrong.
Then I would have gotten the job. No,
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm here.
What's funny is all the people that I've had come in, and we have people that stop by the office sometime and ask for internships or drop off their resume, but like the biggest thing to me is someone that goes and researches a company.
Yeah.
And says, here's why I want to work for you. And for me, like my hiring standards, like I don't even look at education, whether you have an MBA, BBA, it doesn't, it really doesn't matter, because I'm going to train you to do exactly what we do, not what another agency does. And that's, I wrote a blog. It was, I've been working on it over the weekend, basically about how we do things completely differently than other agencies. And because of that, nothing that you were taught in school was really going to apply to what we do, apart from the technical knowledge of graphic design or Adobe products or Final Cut. Those things matter.
Yes, exactly.
But the actual application of how an agency typically runs, we do things, a 180 from most other companies.
Which is what makes us stand out.
Exactly. And when people come in, I'm more concerned about their character than their past experience, because I can train somebody to do most of what we do, so long as they have, some of the skills, some of the ingredients there for me to, mix the soup with, so to speak.
Yeah. And the drive to learn.
Yeah. And that's super important too, is, do you want to be here?
Yeah.
And it's not like, look, if I had a choice between like, vacationing on a yacht or working, I think we know what everyone would choose. But the question is, because you have to work, is this where you want to be? And I ask people that all the time, like even during the hiring process, and I think that this was the same for you. I'm not necessarily, want to be stuck with someone that doesn't want to work here.
Yeah. And
I was talking with Chris about this a while back, and he was like scratching his head when I told him what I would do. Because if someone wanted to work somewhere else, I would go and help you find that. Like whatever I can do, whatever letter I can write to get you where you want to be, that matters way more to me than you sticking around with me because you feel so out of obligation. And that's what I think makes a big difference, because we have a very open door policy on like, are you happy? Do you enjoy being here? And if not, what can we do to make it better?
Yeah. And that's one of the best things about working for you, is like you genuinely care for us and take care of us. And we as a whole group, not just you as like the boss and the one that worries the most about us, like Chris, our web designer, Amanda, will be like, hey, how you doing? Like anything I can help you with, like just in life. Like we're all friends and we're coworkers.
Yeah. And that's huge. And that goes back to that culture. Like, could we do sign-on bonuses? Well, we probably could. I've never really thought about it as a way to entice people, because I think our work is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that culture matters way more than, what can you do on a monetary perspective to get me in this company? Because if that was the decision maker, if someone's like, this $1,000 signing bonus is the only reason I'm going to come work for you, I don't want you to come work for me then.
No.
If that's the only reason, like there's not gonna be enough money in the world to satisfy, that need that you have.
Yeah.
And you're gonna keep hopping from place to place to place every 6 months, and I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah, splurging it just from the get-go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the difference between saying, hey, I have this salary requirement, or I have this basic cost of living. Like those are two completely different conversations.
Yes.
One is more so, I want to, $600 more a month here to here to here is more important than like security, stability, consistency. It's interesting. So as the company gets bigger, and we just crossed the double digits for employees now, but we're getting ready to hire again. But it's interesting to see how, adding more personalities to the mix it changes things. And that's why I think we need to be even more resolute on our hiring process. And there's two things I want to do. One, before we wrap up, I want to talk about the how important businesses need to document their hiring process.
Yes.
And it's not just, hey, here's a body, let me throw it into the mix, because that person that you throw into the mix could upset one of your key lead people. And you might say, well, it's just a entry-level position. Well, yes, it is. But that entry-level position has contact with your senior-level positions, your executive-level positions, your C-suite positions. Like, it matters. It's not just anything. It's a position in the company who's representing you, who's putting their name on, their chest, your business card, whatever it is they're doing. So it matters no matter what level it's at. The second thing is for the people that are in the position of looking for a job right now. And this is something that we're going to pull out and use is a clip because I really want to highlight this. A while back, one of my nephews came to me and said, "What is the easiest way to find a job?" And I was like, "Got it. Here's what it is. You find 10 businesses that you want to work for.
Mm-hmm.
You research all 10 businesses. You figure out how you can make each of those 10 businesses better. And you write that in a letter and you go and hand it to the owner." If someone came in to Wayne Media and handed me a letter and said, "Hey, Rob, here's 6 ways that I can help make the company better,"
Yeah.
I'll listen. You have my attention. Now, if the 6 ways are terrible, then we'll have to talk about that. but if it is a true show of effort to say, here's where I think I can help, or here's where I think I can insert myself to be more of a support system, or whatever it may be, you have my attention at least. Yeah. More so than the person that just sent me a generic cover letter saying how they're punctual. I would certainly hope so.
I'm a hard worker.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah. Oh, I show up on time. Well, congratulations. You can pick up your medal on the way out the door.
It's expected.
Yeah. It's like, oh, the most basic thing. Do you breathe as well? Well done. It's like, do more, show more. Like that, and that's one thing that pisses me off the most about school is like everyone has these, clear things that you need to put on your resume, and you need to, you need to be on time. And it's like, it's so much more than that. Like, how can you insert yourself into that business puzzle to help them be more successful? Because when they're more successful, if it's a good company with good leadership, you will be successful.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps someone listening for if they're in the job hunt. Because right now there's a lot of people hiring, but once you get above kind of the mid-level positions, it's pretty dry.
Yeah.
And that's what you're seeing. Restaurants, fast food places with the highest turnover are hiring. Wonder why. And that's where people like Chick-fil-A, people that actually invest in their employees, they have longer processes. Yes, it sucks up front to do that. It takes time. It takes effort. But once you've crossed that bridge, it's much, much easier to keep people's attention on your company rather than going elsewhere.
Well, and a large part of it too is just understanding the human side of it. Like we all need days off. We all need things happen. And if you don't just view your employee as a number, as someone that's there to just pump out work for you, then you basically are doing the basic minimum of what you can do to keep people there.
That's a good point too. This is something we talked about. I'm glad you brought this up, was the PTO side. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
I would have totally forgot. When people come in to a company, when people want to work for your company, you cannot expect them to put their lives on hold and push off all of the plans that they had. When you came in, what was going on in your life? What big event was coming up?
I came in mid-March and I was like, hey, I'm super excited to be here, but I'm getting married in 4.5 months. And I know that's a huge thing. I have no idea how much time I'll need off. I know I'll probably need 2 weeks for the wedding, but then there was miscellaneous days where I had to go back to my parents' house in Grand Rapids and you have to leave for a half day. And so you've been amazing with that as it's upon us now. So
4 days.
4 days.
4 days. So yeah. And the thing, my philosophy behind that is like, look, if you show people the basic level of respect or care, or say, look, you have a big life event coming up.
Yeah.
You should do that. You should go and do that and have the time off and not have to worry about money and be paid while you're gone to do that. And then what did you do in return without me asking? You said, hey, before I leave, I want to make sure all of our clients are caught up until September and we have a really good handoff process while I'm gone. I didn't tell you to do that.
No, but I didn't want to, you care about me and made everything as easy on me as possible. And so, especially with all of the sales we've been making recently, it's balanced out, but it's really comforting for me and for you, for me to be gone for 2 weeks, knowing that every single one of my clients is going to be happy, taken care of. They don't have anything to worry about. That's how it should be.
Yeah. And that's the whole idea of, hiring with those things in mind. Like when you came in and said, hey, I'm getting married, not once was I like, oh, this is a deal breaker. You're going to be gone.
There were people I applied.
Sure.
There was one job I had a second interview with, even though I told you I only had 2 to maybe 3 interviews overall. One place, they told me, I walked in, said the same thing I said to you. I was like, hey, I'm getting married. I'll probably just need 2 weeks off. No big deal. That's expected. I'd say for most places, 2 weeks, couple sick days, whatever. And that person looked at me and they said, well, we'll figure it out, but we normally do where you're eligible for 1 week after 365 days. I said, what?
Which is
What
a
are you
much
talking
longer
about?
way to say 1 year.
Yeah. And I was like, so Christmas? Like, so, like all of the other little things. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, no, we got to work it out now. Like, I need to know. I can't just be like, yes, I'm going to commit and stop my job search and come work for you, and we can't have that figured out on the front end. Why not?
Yeah.
Like, what corporate red tape do we need to cut to figure this out?
It was not corporate either, I tell
No,
you what.
Yeah,
it was just.
But people don't think in those terms. They think of like hours to revenue.
Yeah.
And it's really people to revenue. Like the hours are irrelevant. We had, and I don't want to take too much time on this. This is a whole separate podcast, but we had, I had a discussion with a client the other day, and I said, hey, if I can build you a website in 3 hours and charge you $3,000 for it, would you be upset if it took another developer from another company 10 hours to do the exact same website? Like basically you're paying me 3 times as much per hour, but I delivered the exact same product. Do you care? And they're like, no, we care about the final results.
Yeah, exactly.
Which kind of eliminates the whole hours to revenue argument. Like unless you're doing something like an attorney and you're doing billings that's completely different. But the whole point is if you can get as much work done in the same amount of time, why do I care if someone has an extra week or 2 off?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. The other thing too that businesses are touching on right now, which I think is really good, but I invite businesses to think about this with caution, is unlimited PTO. Not because I think people are going to take advantage of it. Largely the data has shown they won't. The biggest data point that has come out of that is there is a fraction of people that are afraid to take off vacation because they don't know how much is too much.
Yeah. You did a really good show with one of our clients from Vexa where you went super in depth on that too. And I've listened to it and people get nervous. They're like, okay, I need to take a Friday off because I'm going camping, but like I already took this week in January and this one in June. I don't want to stress him out, but I feel good. They question it.
and you want to feel like, well, if I took 3 weeks of unlimited PTO and Marjorie took 2, we're both up for promotion. Does that matter? And you don't want to be playing those games because then it just makes you more anxious. So what we've done is like everyone starts out with about 3 weeks of vacation time, PTO, sick bank, all rolled into one. And if you need more, we'll take more. Yeah. I mean, let's figure that out. Like if we need to raise it to 4 weeks instead of 3, we can certainly do that. But no one's even come close to hitting that cap. But I wish they would.
Yeah, you do. We have a couple people that were like, get out of here.
Will you just leave and go enjoy yourself?
Go relax, live life. But it's the difference between getting to December and you're already at your 3 weeks and you're like, hey, I think I want 2 more weeks, just cause, and like, versus, hey, like so-and-so's really sick. I want to go. Like, there's a huge difference in that.
And that's why, like, if we set a 3-week bank and it doesn't roll over, that encourages people to take that time. And again, if someone had, like, if you said, hey, I got this huge thing that I got to go away for 3 weeks on. Yeah. Okay, let's do it. It's not a big deal. But I want to encourage people to take the time off. And it's a tough balance. And that's what you got to figure out as a company. Do you want limited PTO? Do you want to, graduate scale? And some companies got themselves in a spot where they've been around for so long, their policies are so old, for them to change everything at once would upset people that have been with the company 20, 30 years. True. So that's another HR logistical nightmare they need to work out. So I don't want to be a part of that. Nope. So just do it right from the beginning. Generally, it works out better.
Great advice for those that have been around a long time.
Yeah, sure. So should have done better. All right, cool.
My word.
So 56 in the books. Tori, thanks so much.
Yeah,
congratulations. 4 days.
4 days. Different last name. Everyone that will be confused by my incoming emails, I apologize in advance.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, that'll wrap up 56 Waynecast. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.